The Choice of Love, Part 3. Jade and Marcus had fallen into a beautiful rhythm in their life together. Since moving into Marcus's cozy apartment, they'd spent their mornings in each other's arms, savoring coffee on the tiny balcony and watching the sunrise, their laughter filling the quiet early hours. Marcus's devotion was steady and true. His protective, gentle love filled the spaces in her heart in a way that made her feel safe, cherished, and utterly at peace. Evenings were reserved for unwinding and reconnecting, long walks in the nearby park, cooking dinner together, and watching the city lights from their window. They shared countless nights wrapped in each other's arms, losing themselves in each other's presence. Marcus often ran his fingers through Jade's hair, whispering about his dreams for their future. And Jade found herself melting into his words, envisioning a life filled with happiness and love. Their physical chemistry deepened each day. Their connection was electric yet tender, with each touch, kiss, and embrace speaking volumes. Marcus adored her, his affection unrestrained. Jade felt a sense of security and love that she'd longed for, and their shared moments were a blend of intimacy and joy, leaving her feeling like she'd finally found her home. One afternoon, as they prepared a simple lunch in their sunlit kitchen, Jade felt a wave of unexpected nausea. She brushed it off initially, but when the feeling persisted, Marcus grew concerned and gently urged her to see a doctor. A few days later, she held the positive pregnancy test in her trembling hands, overwhelmed by the news. When she told Marcus, his joy was boundless. He lifted her off her feet, twirling her around as he laughed and kissed her, already dreaming aloud about their future together. "We're going to be a family, Jade," he whispered in awe, his eyes full of wonder. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of excitement as they made plans for their future. Marcus was more attentive than ever, ensuring Jade was comfortable, bringing her snacks, and talking to her belly as if he could already see their baby. Jade felt a happiness she'd never known before. But in the weeks that followed, Jade began noticing small, unsettling things. She would catch glimpses of a familiar figure watching her from afar. Just out of sight, she noticed cars following her on her way to work, and sometimes, late at night, she'd get an eerie feeling that she was being watched. Jade told herself she was being paranoid, but Marcus noticed her anxiety and encouraged her to share what was on her mind. But Jade kept it to herself, unwilling to taint their happiness with her lingering concerns about Darnell. Then, one afternoon, she returned home to find a package waiting outside their door. The box was small and wrapped very carefully. Inside was a tiny baby blanket, soft and carefully chosen, with an unsigned note that was tucked inside that read, "Some dreams don't just end." Her heart raced as she held the note, realizing Darnell was back in her life, watching, waiting. His refusal to let go of the past lingered like a dark cloud over her. She wanted to tell Marcus, to explain everything, but something held her back. She didn't want to stir up tension between them when things had finally settled into a beautiful place. Over the next few weeks, Jade did her best to shake off her unease, but she couldn't ignore the growing tension. Marcus noticed her quiet worry and tried to reassure her, but she couldn't bring herself to tell him about Darnell. A few weeks later, there was a knock at the door late one evening. Jade opened it, her heart nearly stopping when she saw Darnell standing there, his presence imposing and intense, his eyes narrowing as he took in the sight of her slight baby bump. "Jade," he said, his voice smooth yet chilling. "We need to talk." Her pulse raced. She glanced back, hoping Marcus hadn't heard the knock. "Darnell, you need to leave. This is my home. I've moved on." But he stepped closer, his expression hardening. But he shook his head, refusing to budge. "Have you?" "Because I don't think you have, Jade. I see the way you look over your shoulder, wondering if I'm still there." "I am." Just as her voice rose in frustration, Marcus appeared behind her, his face filled with confusion and concern. "Who's this?" Marcus asked, his eyes narrowing as he took in the sight of Darnell standing close to Jade. Darnell's gaze shifted to Marcus, an amused smirk tugging at his lips. He took a slow step closer. "I'm someone Jade knows well, maybe better than you think." He paused, letting the tension simmer. "Jade and we had something real. Ask her about our night on the rooftop." Marcus turned to Jade, hurt and confusion in his eyes. "What is he talking about, Jade?" She stammered, trying to explain, but Darnell interrupted, recounting their night together, his tone heavy with implication. Marcus's jaw clenched as he listened, and his fists balled at his sides. "Marcus, it was before you and I were together. It meant nothing," Darnell interrupted, his voice dripping with challenge. "Meant nothing?" He gave a low, bitter laugh. "I remember every moment." Marcus lunged forward, his fists connecting with Darnell's shoulder as the two men fought. They tumbled into the hallway, fists flying, both filled with fury and frustration. Marcus swung hard, landing a punch on Darnell's jaw, but Darnell retaliated, shoving Marcus against the wall. The sound of fists and grunts echoed down the hallway. Neighbors began to gather, watching in shock, recording on their phones, until a tall, muscular man from the next apartment stepped in and separated them. "Take it inside, gentlemen," he shouted, pushing them apart. Jade led Marcus back inside. She carefully tended to Marcus's bruised face. He remained silent, his expression tight as he winced from the sting of the antiseptic. Jade's hands trembled as she dabbed at the cut on his brow, unable to meet his gaze. "Tell me the truth, Jade," Marcus said finally, his voice low, barely controlled. Was he telling the truth? She looked away, ashamed. "Yes, but it was before us, Marcus. I was lost, unsure of what I wanted. But he's out of my life now." "Then why is he here? Why does he still think he has a claim on you?" Jade's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know. I haven't encouraged him, I swear. But he won't let go." Marcus's eyes darkened, his voice breaking. "How am I supposed to believe this baby is mine?" She gasped, stunned by the accusation. "Marcus, this is your baby. I haven't seen Darnell since that night. You have to believe me." But his expression remained distant, guarded. "I want a paternity test. I need to be sure." In the following weeks, the tension between them grew unbearable. Marcus kept his distance, the trust they had once shared now tainted by doubt. Every interaction felt strained, and the easy comfort they'd once had was now replaced with awkward silences and unresolved arguments. Jade could feel him slipping away, his resentment and suspicion eroding the love they'd built. Their arguments grew more frequent, their voices raised as they struggled to make sense of the mess Darnell had created between them. Each night, Jade and Marcus went to bed feeling further from each other, their hearts aching with the fear that their relationship might not survive. Months later, Jade went into labor, and despite everything, Marcus stayed by her side when she finally held their baby boy in her arms, his tiny face a mixture of innocence and wonder. Tears of joy filled her eyes. She looked to Marcus, hoping the sight of their son would remind him of the love they'd once shared. But he remained guarded, his expression unreadable. When the nurse asked if they had a name, Jade spoke up, her voice soft yet firm. "Marcus Jr.," she said, her eyes on Marcus, hoping he would see the depth of her commitment to him. He didn't protest, but looked away, the weight of his doubts still lingering. The following weeks were a blur of sleepless nights and tender moments with the newborn baby boy, but the shadow of the paternity test loomed over them. Marcus's connection with Jade was still strained as they awaited the results. Over the next few months, Jade and Marcus adjusted to the life with a newborn baby, but the tension between them persisted. Marcus stayed involved, caring for their son with a gentleness that filled her heart with hope. But each time he looked at her, the shadow of doubt remained. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the paternity test results arrived in the mail. Marcus held the envelope, his face a mixture of anticipation and fear. Jade watched him, her heart pounding, praying that this would be the moment that restored their trust. Jade held her breath as Marcus opened it, his eyes scanning the page before he looked up.